your phone to go. Good evening, everybody. It's 7 o'clock on Monday, April 21st, and we will call this meeting of the Sault Ste. Marie City Commission to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Gary.
Here.
Commissioner Bauer.
Here.
Commissioner Baspas-Rath.
Here.
Commissioner Habusta.
Here.
Commissioner Marble.
Here.
Commissioner Rubenstein.
Here.
Commissioner Talentino.
Here.
All present and accounted for. If everybody that can rise, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, so we will move right into item B, which is proclamations and recognitions. So I'll turn it over to City Manager Brian Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up first is recognition of the Firefighter of the Year. For this presentation, I'll turn it over to Chief Miller, and he can take it from there.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. It's been my honor to recognize personnel since I've been here as Firefighter of the Year. The first one to receive this award was Captain Kevin Mohar, going back into history here a little bit. And then last year was Firefighter Medic Peyton Blakely. But this year, we looked at how would we award this. And there were some front runners really early on, and Jason Carson's was one of them for the work that he did within the fire department. His fire investigations and leadership within the department are just unbelievable. I have to stick to my notes tonight because this is a tough one. Not that Kevin's and Peyton's weren't, but this is a little different. Lieutenant Carson's known throughout the state of Michigan. In fact, I just talked to somebody today about him, especially when it comes to investigations. Recently, he was elected to the International Association of Fire Arson Investigators on their board for the state of Michigan chapter as a representative. And he worked with the Michigan State Police Fire Investigative Unit investigators throughout really the Eastern UP. So he was always the phone a friend for all the local departments to figure out what needed to be done. Lieutenant Carson has set the bar way high for our investigations. He strived to maintain a great work ethic. He followed through with insurance companies to make sure that insurance companies had what they needed for their investigation purposes. And he also taught people, which is really good, about what to do, what not to do. And he had a subtle way of reminding people that they needed to do things right so it didn't screw up his job when he was doing the investigation part, or origin and causes. He would always correct us with it. He had an enthusiasm to train people, and he was a good mentor to his people on his shift. He exemplified the public servant model. So he worked to help everybody every day. Unfortunately, on September 8th, he passed away. But we have his family here to recognize them today and honor Jason as Firefighter of the Year, and I'd like to have them come up and receive this award.
Thanks very much.
At the same time, the firefighters have a recognition for him. There you go. It's a little bigger than what I had, so they're going to present this to him. So for your benefit, Jason's favorite saying was, "Best job in the world." Right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Do we set stage right now, or how does this work?
You want to come up and say hi to you, or do you want to come to them? You want to go?
Shake some hands? Okay, all right.
They won't bite, I swear to God.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. I think there are many words that can encapsulate that, but thank you very much to Sioux Fire, and certainly a nice tribute to Lieutenant Karstens. And nice to see his wife and family here, and great to see Sioux Fire here in support of the Karstens family. We will move on into item C, which is public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments on any of the scheduled agenda items this evening that are not public hearings? Okay, so we'll move on into item D, which is the consent agenda. Deputy City Manager Robin Troyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Under the consent agenda, approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of April 7th, 2025. Item 2, acceptance of the Downtown Development Authority meeting minutes of February 18th. Item 3, acceptance of the Downtown Development Authority meeting minutes of March 12th. Item 4 is acceptance of the Economic Development Corporation, Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, and Tax Increment Finance Authority 3 meeting minutes of March 11th. Item 5 is acceptance of the Police and Fire Pension Board meeting minutes of March 19th. Item 6 is scheduling public hearing for single lot assessment roll SL-1W-25. Item 7 is consideration to amend the automatic transfer switch project budget and contract with J-Rank Electric. Item 8 is consideration of Smart Zone lease agreement with the Economic Development Corporation. Item 9 is consideration of Smart Zone lease agreement with Osprey Technologies LLC. And item 10 is approval of the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager. Would any commissioner like any of these removed for individual consideration or have them explained further? Seeing none, Commissioner Bauer.
I move that we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Item E, special orders of business. City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up first is the annual submission of the operating budget for the next fiscal year. This is a charter requirement. 8.2 requires the budget to be delivered the third Monday in April of each year. And there is the budget book. We have our budget hearing scheduled for tomorrow at 4:15. The budget itself holds all of our services going forward, meets all of our obligations, as well as contributes funding back into our general fund balance per the corrective action plan that we're working on due to some of the other projects that we've had to sneak some money away from that. So the budget's there. If you want paper copies, let me know. Otherwise, we will get into the budget tomorrow afternoon at 4:15. We'll kind of go through department to department, line by line, answer any questions, talk about any topics you may have, and kind of go from there. So we'll meet tomorrow, 4:15. Years previous, we've been able to get it through on one night. If we do have to come back, we have the Wednesday night kind of set aside too. And then the following Monday, week from today, would be the budget reconciliation meeting if we need it. So with that, good.
Thanks, City Manager. Anybody have any questions or comments on this item? We would need a motion to accept City Manager's recommended budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025. Commissioner Bosphus-Rath.
Thank you, Mayor. Motion to accept the city manager's recommended budget for fiscal years beginning July 1st, 2025.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in
This is just
Commissioner
to,
Bustish,
this
sure.
is just accept the workbook, right? And this
Yes.
is not to accept the,
Correct.
No, it's not.
just want to make sure.
Full approval, skipping tomorrow.
Because the way that
If you're ready
budget,
for that, then
the way that recommended action item reads, certainly, could
Ah,
lead
you
to the
got
other.
Be
me.
a spoiler alert.
we're accepting it. We're accepting it. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed, and we will get into the nuts and bolts tomorrow night. Under item F, communications, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Marion McLeod has asked to bring some concerns forward regarding the parking lot in Oka Alley, as well as the parking garage. She provided some pictures in your agenda item regarding just some housekeeping, cleanliness items throughout the parking garage. So I don't know if she's here.
Yep.
Yep, she is. Sorry. Come on up. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Marion.
Did everybody get the pictures?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Hi. Thank you for letting me speak. I really think it's a necessary topic now. I brought my notes because I forget stuff.
I can, yes.
Pardon?
I'm sorry, I talked to the mayor.
We can put them on the screen
Oh.
visually, so the,
Oh, that's, okay. So I just want to start by saying that I love our city, and I love, you've all been in other cities with parking structures. None of them are beautiful like ours. I mean, the others, they're all made of gray-colored concrete, you know, and they're just, you know, they're just there. But ours, whoever designed it, they thought of the city, and they thought of how it would fit into the city, and they used the colors of the stone to harmonize with the colors of, you know, our beautiful rock, our beautiful sandstone buildings that that were made from the locks and the canal. And so I've always loved it, and I've lived at Avery Square now for 10 years, and I've always bought a year-round pass for that parking structure. Now, before the pandemic, it used to be cleaned rather regularly, and I never saw the process. I just enjoyed the after process. But, you know, they got rid of the cigarette butts, and I think it was Mitzi Robbins said that they started at the top and they used the fire truck, you know, the power washer to wash everything down. Or maybe sometimes they used whatever that machine is that gets rid of the sand on our sidewalks and streets in the springtime. Whatever it was, since the pandemic, it hasn't been done. And now, you can see in the pictures that I provided for you, I think. Sometimes you can't even see where to park anymore. The lines have been obliterated just from general, you know, the weather and driving over them and such. They need to be repainted. And there's dirty residue that drips from the ceiling. There's Ruth Harrow, I think I showed you a picture of her red car. She has, I think, asked for compensation. She's had the stuff from the ceiling dripped on her car, her new car, by the way, and hurt damaged the finish on the car. So it's going to cost her quite a bit to get that done. And Randy Kraus, she had the white van. I showed you that picture too. It dripped on, I think it was her windshield, and she can't get it off. So, you know, whatever's dripping down there, it has to be found out what that is, you know, and clean that up and close up those seams that are opened up. So, of course, we've got the pigeon dung all the time, and there are people, this is no kidding, there are people who actually bring an extra pair of shoes in their car, so when they go to visit their friend, after they've walked through the garage, you know, before they get out of the car at their friend's house, they put on their nice shoes to go and visit there because their shoes have that stuff from the garage on them. So, you know, it's not a good situation. I showed you a picture too of damage or whatever it is, it's rust to the doors, to that one door. And it looks, I haven't gone up and actually touched it, but it looks like it might need to be replaced, not just the rust taken off. I'm not sure, but it looks like the rust, good, you've got it there. It looks like the rust has eaten right through. And then there's some exposed wires underneath, and somebody very nicely put a grate in front of it, but it still worries me. You know, there are kids that go in there with their skateboards, and I don't know, I think they're all just pretty great kids. They're just having a good time, and that would be a great place to skateboard at 10 o'clock at night when there's not a lot of traffic in there. But you worry about all those expired wires, exposed wires. So I just said, I hope you will plan a cleaning of this structure soon so that we can be proud of it again. A suggestion is that Saturdays and Sundays there are fewer vehicles in the structure. And if you let people know in advance, for instance, if you have where those arms go up and down, there's a concrete raised part. If you put a big sign there about a week in advance and said, on such and such a date between this time and this time, we plan to be cleaning. Then, and then if the city would allow people to park on Oka Alley in that one area that you normally have to pay for, if they just maybe between those hours, if they could be allowed to park out there, that would be really great. So that was an idea. And as for the pigeon dung, I know we used to live on Armory Place, and we had a problem in our beautiful old home with pigeon dung too. And what I did was I just got some chicken wire and rolled it up and put it up there underneath the roof where they roosted, and they couldn't roost there anymore. I think it's a very inexpensive and easy and quick solution to that problem. Or, maybe you have something else, but I wouldn't want to poison those beautiful birds. I'm sorry, I think they're beautiful. My husband always called them flying rats, but I always thought they were really pretty. So, okay, the handicap signs that had fallen down have been fixed, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm really happy about that. That was the main matter that I wanted to tell you about. There's just one other thing, and that is we've got at least 3 parking lots in town that don't have meters anymore. And you have to have an app on your phone and put in a code, and that way you can park there and you can tell it how long. Now, I've got to tell you, even though I'm 83 years old, I love that app. And I go in there and I say, yeah, I'm in 7168, and it says, hi, Marion, and it says, how long do you want? And I say, an hour, okay. And then, after about 45 minutes, wherever I am, let's say I'm at the Palace having dinner or something, it'll say, your parking meter is about to expire. Do you want more time? Yeah, I want another 30 minutes. And I don't have to run out with my quarters, But it's still a bad idea to have it all like that, because I'm sure you know that a lot of people don't have smartphones. And a lot of people who do have smartphones are very reluctant to put their financial information in there. Now, I find, I let it go into my PayPal account and I'm fine. But a lot of people, and I think it hurts our downtown, because on Oka Alley, there's that great big lot there just off of Peck Street that you can't park in unless you've got the app. And the same thing across from, pardon me, I'm going to say Bailey Newhouse Funeral Home because I was born and raised here, and that's what I still think of it as. But that lot is like that. And then across from the Palace, there's a lot like that. Okay, I mean, if it's okay to have that, but if you could just at least have a couple of meters in there for people that need meters, because it's just, it's just not fair. I think it helps the downtown that everybody can park wherever they need to park. So that's all I have to say, and thanks again for listening.
Thank you very much, Marion, and thanks for putting yourself on the agenda. I think you had a lot of good comments and definitely some deferred maintenance there as evidence in your pictures. So, Commissioner Bauer.
Yeah, I would like to say that in all my years of sitting on this commission, that was the nicest complaint list I've ever heard in my entire life.
I
You were,
agree. I agree.
You were
It was
really
nice.
spitting fire there for a minute. But no, that door is, borderline disgrace. I wouldn't have known about it if she hadn't brought that to our attention, because I always walk down that way. I mean, I live, like 2 blocks away, so I really don't have much of a need to park in the garage. But you brought forward a lot of issues with the garage that absolutely need tending. I mean, there's no arguing that. And this is a really good time to bring it up because we've got budget session. So your timing was impeccable, and it was actually very nice of you to present as you did. So, no, thank you.
City Manager, I don't know if you have any comments. Or...
I know DPW is working on some of those things like the door. The DPW director mentioned today that they were looking to either replace the door or put a cover over some of the rusted spot to kind of protect it a little bit more. So they're on it, they're working on it, and we'll just keep chipping away at the list. The pigeons are tough. I think we had a gentleman here a couple years ago that were trapping the pigeons at one point. I don't think they were super successful because they just kind of kept going and going, but we'll get back on it. We'll get it done. Thank you.
Thanks very much again. Appreciate it. Anybody else have any comments?
You.
All right, moving on into item G, business items. Number 1, City Manager Chapman.
Take one and pass it down. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up first, commission consideration is a request regarding the purchase of a stock fire pumper for the fire department. As the fire chief starts heading up here a little bit, I'll kind of give you some background. So we have a couple of different fire trucks that we're looking to, we have 2 older fire trucks, Engine 52 and Engine 57. Engine 57 was the fire truck that we were looking to replace sooner rather than later.
Correct.
But Engine 52 came up and having some issues. There was an engine issue. We took it down to the shop. They started taking everything apart, and then they found that the frame was cracked or broke. So we're pivoting our plans. We're going to focus on Engine 52. Part of the problem, and I don't want to take away all of Chief Miller's presentation, but part of the problem is the lead time, the production time for a new pumper is outwards about 5 years right now. There's no guarantee of cost. There's no guarantee of time frame. It's really a tough situation. We kind of got 2 fire trucks that aren't in the best of shape right now. So we have an option here to buy a stock unit, which is something that's been built, sitting on the demo floor. They're available. We can pick them up, but we got to act fast on them. So with this item, we've got 2 motions. We got a motion to waive the committee and bidding process because this doesn't fit quite in our purchasing policy, and then a motion to authorize the purchase of a stock demo equipment not to exceed $1.1 million. So Chief Miller has got a lot of talking points for you. I've handed them out. If you want to follow along with the bouncing ball, you can do that. If you have any questions, just feel free to raise your hand, and the chief and or I would be more than happy to entertain them. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Miller.
All right. The main goal with giving you the talking points is make sure that you understand and have, make a well-informed decision, because this is a big decision to make. Engine 52 is a 2009 pumper, fire pumper, so we have 2 different styles of fire trucks. We have our ladder truck and then 2 fire pumpers, which each has their own role in how we operate. Engine 52 itself was built to be a rescue pumper. It had limited amount of hose, but it carried equipment, and we used it for our extrication equipment. But as things have progressed in the fire department, it no longer really fits our needs. But we were going to make it work and look at Engine 57 as being the first replacement until we found out the news that the frame rails need to be replaced. So in my initial review of what we could do and give the city manager some options, that was something that was contemplated. You know, we could replace the frame rails. However, after doing more research and talking with MSP's Motor Carrier Division, looking at Department of Transportation requirements, any modification of a frame rail has to be approved by the manufacturer and built to manufacturer specifications. The manufacturer of this pumper does not feel that a frame rail is a field repair, and it has to go back to the factory to be done, which would increase the cost. So we did some cost analysis based on that. Heartland Township's going through the same thing right now, but they have a lot of extra work that was going on with their vehicle as well, including replacement of air tanks, brake lines, a lot of other stuff. And their quote was $300,000. So looking at what they had scheduled to do compared to what we need to have done, we're estimating around $200,000 just for the frame rail replacement, and I do feel that they're gonna find more wrong once they start taking the truck apart to do the work. And that doesn't include the cost of the engine rebuild, which was the original reason why it went, which was approximately $50,000. So total, I would estimate to repair engine 52 would be $250,000 for a truck that in a perfect condition has a retail value for resale of about $150,000. So we did some research on that to see what's our residual value on this. Right now, the way it is, without an engine on it and a broken frame, it's probably less than $50,000, which is amazing when you think about the tires on it alone, probably come close to that. So we're in a bad situation, but we did look at our options. We even considered buying used vehicles as an option, but that opens up another can of worms too. First of all, why is a truck being sold, and what kind of problems could we find with the used vehicle? So why do we need so many fire trucks? Somebody asked me that question the other day. I thought it was a good question because it made me think afterwards. It's like, because we want them? And that's not a good answer. There's actually a good answer for it, and it's based on our property protection classification that's done by the ISO. ISO develops a property protection classification to help insurance underwriters determine how much insurance rates will be within the city. It would affect residential rates. It will greatly affect commercial rates if our ISO rating changes. Currently, we're at a 4, and for a city our size and for the hazards we have, that's a pretty good score. But if we get a higher score, which is bad for us, that means that the consequence of that is higher premiums. In our last review of ISO in 2019, the recommendation is that we have 2 fire pumpers on scene to be able to pump 3,500 gallons a minute uninterrupted. That's based on their risk assessment of the city. And that's based on the 5th highest risk building in the city, not the number 1, not the lowest. So it tries to balance out the risk when they do their assessment. And this is the standard in the industry for insurance. So looking at that report, if we drop to just our ladder truck and a pumper, we're on that razor's edge of not being able to meet that requirement. And if we have a survey, which we're probably due for a new ISO rating, that would be taken into consideration. Our last report alone, our apparatus scored 68%, and that is pretty low. So this would help with that, especially with our ladder truck, which is now 6 years old. I know it's hard to believe, but that's been 6 years since that's arrived in the city. So that's why we have the need for 2 engines or 2 fire pumpers. So what's the difference? Ladder truck has a big ladder on it, has a lot of ladders. It does have a pump on it, and it does pump 2,000 gallons per minute. However, it doesn't have a lot of supply hose. In some of our areas, we have the potential to stretch over 1,500 foot of hose to hook to a hydrant. Our pumpers carry anywhere from 1,000 to, our engine 57 has 1,400 gallons of water, but they carry 1,000 foot of 5-inch, so that gives us more supply line and more fire hose to effective firefighting efforts. And then it has more compartmentation for other rescue tools that the ladder truck just doesn't have. I jumped ahead a little bit. But engine 52, talk about it a little bit more. Most people correlate mileage to the age and condition of a vehicle. In fire apparatus, that's tough, especially when you consider that most of our runs occur within the city boundaries. So engine 52 currently has on its odometer 50,000 miles. The bigger thing is it has 4,339 engine hours. So when we calculate that based on conversion factors, this vehicle, this motor has 260,000 miles on it. So that's where sometimes you get that surprise look like, how can that be? But it's about the basis of how the engines run, and there is acceptable calculations based on how much it's run. And I was surprised at the amount of hours on it as well. But that's everything from pumping hours, idle hours, driving hours. So we talked about protection class. Currently, we're a 4. NFPA also sets guidelines and standards for apparatus design and classifications. It's a consensus standard, though. It's where the manufacturing industry, fire industry, all come together to develop what's a safe and appropriate fire truck and the needs associated with it. And they recommend that most fire trucks have a frontline use of 15 years, and that at 20 years they should be gone. But understanding that that's not always possible for smaller cities, they take into consideration it's DOT inspections, it's preventative maintenance, pump testing, ladder testing. And so I bring that up because what I'm going to ask of you is that if we replace engine 52, we're going to try to keep engine 57 a little longer. And we can do that as long as we keep up on its maintenance and as long as we can still get parts for it. Now, it's not going to be a forever truck, but it's at least might be able to give us some separation between purchasing 2 trucks really close together. So fire trucks are outrageously priced right now. And if anybody would have told me that a fire pumper would have been this much like 5 years ago, I would have said that they were like, must have been drunk or visiting a dispensary because it just didn't seem possible. But I'm wrong. Right now, average fire pumper, a stock fire pumper, not even a custom one or a lot of bells and whistles on it, are ranging from the high end of the $900,000 range on up. Where before, that $1 million mark was where you'd see ladder trucks at. So a lot of this happens from people blame COVID and supply chain issues, which those seem to have been resolved, but now there's a backlog or a glut in the system. The thing that's come up recently are investment companies that have bought up fire truck companies and are managing them to maintain a high backlog for their profits. That's affecting the industry. That's affecting the prices as well. ARPA funds. A lot of people had their last minute ARPA funds and they decided to buy a fire truck. Well, all of a sudden the market's inundated with purchase requests, so now that's increased the backlog and increased the pricing because the supply is less than demand right now. And then finally, we have the risk of the tariffs, which are affecting the material costs. I have a friend that's works for ambulance manufacturer. He's their national sales manager, and I called him up and I said, "Hey, how's material costs being affected right now?" And he's like, "Well, that's funny you should mention that. Nobody can commit to it, but the day after tariffs were announced, we had a 10% increase right off the bat. That's on steel, that's on aluminum, that's on the components that we use to build these trucks." So all that together makes this perfect storm of why fire trucks are costing so much. So by purchasing a stock unit, not going out to bid, it helps us to define what the price truly is. So a stock unit can be a completed unit. It could be in the process of being completed through manufacturing, but the price is set because the bill of materials is built out. They have those costs, so that makes it nice. If we went out to bid, we probably wouldn't get an accurate price anyways. We would get a description of what will be built. Did it meet our specs or not? They would give a rough estimate of what it would cost today with an adjustment calculator on it. And they will not commit to pricing, and this is across the industry, will not commit to pricing until the vehicle's in production and they have the materials on site. So if I told you it was $1 million today, if I used the same example of 2 years ago when we said it would be $800,000 for a fire pumper, it could be $1.5 million. There's just too much of a gamble right now. So real-time pricing, quicker delivery time, weeks and months instead of years. Average for a fire pumper across the industry to get built and delivered is 2 to 5 years based on the manufacturer. But another advantage is we're looking at stock units that are standard design. So in the manufacturing world, if it's a standard design with uncomplicated engineering that controls the cost, that'll help us save it. And that's another advantage of the stock unit. And we looked through and evaluated stock units to see what would fit best for us still while managing the cost and also fitting in the fire station, which is one of my goals to the city manager. We looked at 7 when we looked at how we could come up with pricing, and that's why we have the price cap not to exceed $1.1 million. Of those 7 stock units, there's only 3 left, and it's only been a week. And it's been sort of a slow time of the year right now, too. And this sort of correlates with what I've been told from other people in the industry, that as soon as stock units are published, stock unit lists are published, they're being purchased right away, sometimes within hours of the publication. So that's why we look at, why do we need to have this authorization to purchase up to a certain amount? Because we need the flexibility to compete with the other municipalities that are doing it. We do have open communication with Pierce. Pierce has been the manufacturer that we've used for our fire trucks, and they've been a very good fire truck manufacturer for us. I've worked on way too many fire trucks over my career, and Pierce is the one that has had the longest longevity and best reliability. And with our staff, they're very familiar with the equipment. And the people we use for maintenance are familiar with them as well. So that's why we've been talking with Pierce, but we have looked at other manufacturers and their stock units as well, and they're comparable in price too. So it's not that we're looking to buy the Cadillac product, we're looking to buy the right product for our city. So the big thing is we just need that flexibility to be able to sign a purchase agreement. Payment typically isn't until the vehicle is delivered, and then we have looked at some financing options if that's something that we can do, that we could extend the price out over 10 to 15 years, and the rates have been pretty reasonable in the 2 comparisons we've got so far, which would also extend the first payment to a year after the lease is signed or the contract signed. So that gives the city a little bit of breathing room, because this was an unexpected purchase. We have asked for pumpers in the past, and we know that the budget's tight, and it's been there and acknowledged, but we know that there's more needs in the city. But this one sort of surprised us. Did I hit everything?
You got everything.
Okay.
So I guess just a couple of things that Chief Miller didn't touch on. So 1.1 million is a lot of money. Over the last couple of years, we've been setting money aside for a couple of different things. We've been trying to replace pumper 57, so we had some cash there. This year, or next fiscal year, we were looking to replace an ambulance. That was about 350,000, somewhere around there. When this came to light last week and a half, couple of weeks, we've decided to take all of that funding that we originally approved for these different things and just put them towards this truck. So if the budget goes through the way it was presented, we're looking at about $600,000 in cash starting off July 1 that could go towards this purchase of this truck. Now, over that time, like Chief Miller said, there is one that we've got out there that we got our eye on. It could be gone by the end of this meeting. But to come up with the other $400,000, we could dig through some of our different funds, try to see if we can't scrape up some of the money to do that. More than likely, and I guess I'll call it worst case scenario, but more than likely worst case scenario is we would probably borrow out the remainder of that amount. So Chief Miller, just to give us an idea, we could, there's a couple different options, internal or an external loan. Rates, depending on if it's 10, 15, 20 year, depending on who it's through, is looking at about 4.7, I think 5.6, somewhere around there, depending on.
5.4 was the highest, I believe.
Yeah, depending on where it's at. So, I guess I just want to make sure that's out there and that's clear. We don't have all the money. Starting July 1, we'll probably have about 600,000 of it. We will try to find the $400,000. I'm really not in love with some of the options of depleting like our stock and equipment fund in case something else should pop up, a plow or whatever the case may be. So more than likely it would come in the form of a loan, 10 or 15 year, whatever the case may be. So you'd kind of have to have that conceptually approved in the back of your head with this particular item. So like we said too, there were 7 or 8 different stock vehicles we were looking at. We're down to a handful of them now. There is one that we've got our eye on. It fits our need. It'll go in the door.
Yes.
It's an important thing. And we would like to move on that one. But should somebody else pick up, maybe their commission meeting went shorter and they've already got the PO signed, this item is intended to kind of carry forward until we have that stock item kind of identified so we can pull the trigger on it that way. So just to be upfront and clear about what the process actually is. We have one lined up. If it doesn't go through, this allows us to continue to move forward until there is something. We pull the trigger on it because we've got the pre-authorizations. And then we'll follow up with whatever formal commission items in terms of if it's a loan, if it's a budget adjustment, whatever the case may be, so. Big item, big value, snow carbide dock. But it's a little bit different in terms of how we're going about this one. So again, if there's any questions or anything, I'd be happy to entertain them. Just to kind of round out the presentation of this item, 2 motions. Motion to waive the competitive bidding process for the purchase, as well as a motion to authorize the purchase of stock demo unit in the amount not to exceed $1.1 million.
Thank you, City Manager, and thank you, Chief. I'm sure we'll have some questions on this item. Commissioner Boswell-Rath.
Thank you for all the information. It was great. My only thing that I saw is there was no talk of a warranty. So being a stock unit, what kind of warranty do they offer?
Stock unit offers the same warranty as a brand-new unit. It's not like going to a local auto shop. You know, it varies based on components, but usually it's a 3-year warranty on it. And then others are prorated. So the paint's prorated. There's some proration on the drivetrain and chassis. So it's a hodgepodge. It's not an easy one like going to Ford, but there are warranties with it where the repair had a 1-year warranty if it was done, or used vehicles don't have warranties.
Mr. Hubusta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief Miller, I appreciate the presentation. I appreciate the information. Clearly, you've done your research, and I plan to support both these motions. I do have 3 questions, though. I just want to just get some clarity on. You mentioned, or the information mentions that this may not be available until the end of the 4th quarter, and clearly we're without a pumper now. How do we make it through as a community during that time?
That's a great question. I've been thinking about that a lot. And right now, we actually had Dafter Township Fire Department that has a brand new, or not new to them, used fire truck that they're storing in Bay Mills because they don't have a fire station, and they have offered to let us use it if needed to cover that gap. So the support and resources with our local communities have been great in case we have that moment where our vehicle's out of service. Right now, between our city mechanic and the mechanic that we use has maintained this truck since it was delivered, they've been great at keeping up with preventative maintenance and dealing with issues when they're in a small condition rather than letting them get big. So I feel comfortable that we can make it that far with Engine 57 and the tower.
Thank you. Finally, 2 other questions. You mentioned ISO rates and
Yes.
and raising a number based upon lack of necessary equipment. Does that number then lower as we purchase new machines, new fire trucks, apparatus, whatever?
That does take into consideration the age of the fleet, the condition of the equipment, and also the inventory on the equipment. And that's one thing we're also working on. We've seen where we missed points before that could help out the residents, and we've been making adjustments to make sure that we get full credit for everything that we have. So it will help us.
Thank you. One final question, if I may oblige. You mentioned that there's not much value in current engine number 52, perhaps $50,000 worth of value. What will happen with that engine? Will we trade it in for that value? What happens with that?
We could trade it in, but knowing how fire truck dealers are, most of them will probably give us less of a value because it's more of a headache for them. What we probably do is put it on Gov Deals and auction it off for the vehicle as it is. There's always somebody out there that either owns a trucking company or something and sees the tires or has components that are on there that they could use, and it'll be scrapped out by them. But I think that'll be the best value, if you approve all this, is to put it out to bid.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else, any questions, comments? Commissioner Talentino.
Thank you, Your Honor. Great presentation, Chief, great job. I know the engine hours are definitely the big thing. I get it, I fully understand. I'd hate to see what our police cars have on them for their engine hours. You know, and they're on more than your trucks are. The one thing, I did do some research in the Pierce website. They do offer rust proofing,
Yes.
and I realize a lot of the galvy dip and that kind of stuff can't be done because this isn't gonna be a custom unit, right?
Right.
This is gonna be a stock unit. But should that be something we should look into? Or have we looked into that on any of our trucks in the past?
Galvanized. It does have galvanized frame rails.
Okay.
And that was one thing we were going to do. We started it with our newest pickup,
Mhm.
that we had it spray undercoated the oil, penetrating oil, and we're going to do that for all of our vehicles from now on.
Okay.
We've talked to the DPW mechanic, and he appreciates it. He says it's a good thing to do. It's a little messy in the parking lot right afterwards. It drips a little bit, but that's the plan, that we are going to get it treated. And we will follow through because it's annual treatment too.
Okay, I saw that, so I just wanted to bring that
Yep.
up to make sure
Thank you.
that that was something you were considering.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just had a couple questions. It's certainly very disappointing that at only 16 years old, its frame is rusting out. That's hopefully not an indication of Pierce's quality or the steel that they're getting.
I thought the same, and I did talk to a mechanic that works on a variety of manufacturers, and he said the years 2008 to 2009, which is where ours is in, he sees frame rails in horrible shape regardless of manufacturer. He attributes it to poor steel of that time. The manufacturers aren't going to say that, and it's always, well, it's road salt. Well, we can show that Engine 57 has been in the same road salt and has had the tank cradle replaced, but the frame's in decent shape after 28 years. Engine 52 is 18 years, right? Oh, no, it's 16 years, sorry.
Yeah. The other
Um,
one's 27, it says.
So it's, yeah, it's unfortunate, but it seems like it's common with that age group.
So can you give us kind of a look at what you see as far as asset management going forward? If you buy a new pumper today, and when we have engine 57, which is at the end of its lifespan, maybe even farther, I mean, where are you looking in the future? I mean, we're gonna buy a new one this year and then have to buy another one next year, or what kind of a schedule do you see for
I would like to see at least
replacement?
a 5-year buffer between the pumpers and get into a more long-term replacement process for the pumpers more so than the ladder truck, based on how they're used and everything. Engine 57 would be used more as a reserve pumper, and we would focus on using the newest one to try to stretch the life out as best we can. But probably within 5-6 years, we're gonna be back here talking about fire trucks again, because, you know, how many people are driving a 28-year-old personal vehicle, let alone an emergency vehicle? The unfortunate part about when we buy a fire truck is it's a huge sticker shock when you see how much they are. But when we look over the fact that they're a 20 to 25-year investment, that price comes down a little bit, but it's hard to look at that when you're signing the check for the first one.
So when you say 5 years, that means we better buy one now because they have a 5-year production time, or
I
are
would
you
think
saying look in 5 years
We're
for a
gonna look in
10-year
5
period?
years, and hopefully costs have come down and build times have come down, but if not, I'm comfortable with going right back to a stock unit, because it shows that we're trying to, we're not buying everything we need, but we can work within the parameters of what we can get through a stock program too. And I think that's probably the best way to go for the city.
And if 57 dies, then I think to Commissioner Habusa's question, can we rely on mutual aid if we have only one pumper for that period of time, which we can't replace it?
We can. It's not good, especially if we have an ISO survey at that time, because it's all based on the initial response and what our capabilities are. So we're always going to have the advantage of having mutual aid from Sioux Township or DAFT or whoever. It's just how long does it take for them to get here? And on a good day, could be 12 to 20 minutes, based on when they get dispatched to go to, and come to the city. And that all plays into that risk assessment again. The city's unique with a lot of risks too, which I think people underestimate, from the locks to the Coast Guard base to the boats to our historic downtown. So we would just want to make sure we're prepared.
Does the budget that we have in front of us reflect any of this, or is this new to the?
So the only thing the budget has right now is the cash contribution towards this. So the budget was developed, before a lot of these conversations really got too serious. So like the potential for a loan isn't baked in there, but the $600,000 that's mentioned in the fiscal impact is the culmination of the cash that's been set aside this year, plus what we, what's the term I'm looking for? Set aside starting July 1 next fiscal year.
So I guess
Reserved.
my concern is, do we have the capacity for this loan, and then looking at all the other capital purchases we'll have to have, and then another truck in a couple of years? Where are we?
I mean, the bigger picture of things, yeah, we're gonna have to make some choices. Can we afford this truck on a small loan now? Yes, but I mean, if we start looking at all the other bells and whistles we've got and all that other stuff, it gets really tight. We'll hit a limit, but, this one we could do, just like everything else. There is a limit. There's a limit to what we can borrow, and what's gonna contribute towards that limit in the future. I don't necessarily know, because if we have unexpected things like this come up, then that's just what we're gonna have to deal with, but, this one we can afford, this one we can do.
All right, anybody else? Commissioner Rubenstein?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, this one's for the city manager. So in the budget for 26-27, you had 300,000 recommended. That would not be recommended if you went with the loan option, correct? I'm just trying to follow the.
No, it would. So we
Okay.
would throw as much cash as possible at this.
So the loan would theoretically then only be 200,000 in that case.
400,000,
Or 400,000.
500,000.
500.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere around there. In theory. In theory.
And
Because-
that's with the 300,000 budgeted next year on top of the 600 that's there this year.
No, because that would be 900. The total is 600,000, and I think is it 300,000 we had going next fiscal year, and then whatever remainder from last fiscal year combined together. Whatever that breakup, it's $600,000. We'd be looking at it in a reserve July 1, 2025,
Okay.
next fiscal year.
So then that 26, 27, 300,000 is really just a part of that 600?
Bingo.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly, it's a critical asset for the city, and it's unfortunate that 52 has gone down. Do you know if, if we approve this, then are we eliminating other large departmental purchases, like any plow trucks or any equipment that we're gonna rely on for essential services?
So this is being funded through the general fund and a combination of our gaming reserves that we get from the 2% allocation from the tribe. Snow plows, pickup trucks, things of that nature is funded through stock and equipment. Stock and equipment has some cash available to pay for what we're anticipating to buy next fiscal year, as well as a decent fund balance moving forward. Like I said, one of the options we talked about was to rob Peter to pay Paul, take the money out of the stock and equipment and pay for the whole thing in cash. I don't want to do that, just because if we get into a situation where a loader's broke or a plow truck is broke, whatever the case may be, I mean, those pieces of equipment are just as important as a fire truck. So we need to make sure we have the capability to put those or replace them if we need to. So,
I thought we bought those out of stock and equipment previously, did we?
yeah, that's what I'm
Fire
saying.
trucks and ambulances? We did?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. So we're varying, It's all the same. Yeah, I mean, stock and equipment's paid by general funds and services internally. Okay. Any other questions or comments, or do we have,
I had one
sure,
more.
Sure, Chief, thanks.
I need to thank the staff that helped me review all these and help me get the information together so we could give you a clear picture of what our options are. So, you know, they've helped me out a ton, so,
I'm assuming the one you're looking at is a Pierce?
yes.
How does that work? So Pierce manufacturers, do they have different distributors that these are sitting at across the country then? So we're,
No.
So-
They send out a paper list to all the different dealer vendors throughout the United States.
okay,
But they're typically in Appleton, either in the production line still or at Appleton itself. The one that we're looking at is part of their, they call it their road rally, which is gonna be a fleet of trucks that goes around to different dealerships throughout the United States to show the products. Advantage for us, if we were able to get that vehicle, is it's road miles that are put on a vehicle that are highway road miles versus our short vehicle runs that we have within the city. So usually that lends to a better break-in of an engine, and that would help with its longevity for overall use. Plus, the warranty starts when they deliver to us, so even in their presentation, it'll have new tires on it, it'll be reviewed by the engineering staff at Pierce, and it'll be delivered from the factory as a new vehicle.
so it's direct from manufacturer, no intermediary?
What's that?
It's direct from manufacturer then, no intermediary, no?
No, well,
okay.
it goes through a dealership, which is Halt Fire Equipment out of
Okay.
Michigan. Kevin Pomasol's the local sales rep in this area, and he also does northern Wisconsin as well, so.
Is it our color?
It is,
Oh,
actually,
okay.
which was surprising. That, you know, that was just a,
The least important question.
yes.
so. Is any commissioner that would like to make this, there are two recommendations here. Commissioner Marble.
Thank you, Mayor. Motion to waive the competitive bidding process for this purchase.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of waiving the competitive bidding process, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? First motion passed unanimously. Commissioner Marble.
Thank you. Motion to authorize the purchase of a stock demo fire apparatus as determined by the fire chief and city manager not to exceed $1.1 million.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the thorough work that you did on this. Under G, business items, number 2, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to approve an agreement between the city and Stratus Security Company or Stratus Security Management Incorporated for security services related to the 2025 cruise ship season. Long story short, at one point, the police auxiliary used to handle this, but given the large increase in the number of cruise ship landings here in the Sioux, we didn't have the personnel to be able to really staff that. So we went out and put a bid out a couple years ago. I think we received 2 bids. Stratus Company was the one that had the low bid at the time. We're recommending an addendum to the original contract to extend it out for 1 more year. Costs have remained flat from year to year, as well as it is a budget neutral for us, as any costs incurred for their services is rolled into the fees associated with the cruise ship landing. So we look for a motion to authorize the agreement between the city and Stratus Security Management Incorporated.
Thank you, City Manager. Any questions on this item? I'm sure we all have a dream of one day that we'll have an auxiliary that will be staffed enough to handle these contracts, but we'd like to make a motion. Commissioner Rubenstein.
Motion to authorize the city manager to execute the agreement addendum with Stratus Security Management, Inc.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Item G, business items number 3, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to approve an ordinance that authorizes residential handicap parking stalls on street in certain areas. So, a while ago, there was a resident that reached out. They needed a handicap parking stall. Their particular property doesn't have a driveway or a yard or anything. It's one of those older, really dense neighborhoods. Their biggest challenge was with the locks workers in that area parking along the street, which was perfectly fine. There was nothing illegal about it. But he was looking for some kind of accommodation to be made to allow him to park his vehicle in front of the house. After doing some research, there were some other communities that had a very similar ordinance, kind of duplicated what was already out there, made it work for us, and presenting it to you for final consideration. So this doesn't change anything winter parking wise. They're not able to park all night long. The particular gentleman that we were working with on this one is fully aware of that. Basically what they have is they have to come in, fill out an application, they have to provide proof that they have a handicap parking sticker through the state. We have certain restrictions on there per the ordinance that basically says if you have a driveway or some other means of parking, it's not eligible. It's kind of very limited to a very certain specific need. I can't tell you how many we'd actually have outside of this one possibly. I don't anticipate a whole lot. So with the ordinance defers to a program that the staff would administer. Those policies are as attached as an FYI, should this be approved. These are kind of the program policies that would be in place as well. So I would look for a motion to approve the ordinance as presented, as well as establishing a $20 application fee.
Thank you, City Manager. Anybody have any questions or comments? I think it's a great solution for a problem we've had, so who would like to make this motion? Commissioner Talentino.
Thank you, Your Honor. Motion to adapt the ordinance as presented and establish an application fee of $20.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Moving on to H, City Manager announcements and updates. Clean slate there, so
Clean slate, just budget meeting tomorrow. Don't forget 4:15. Jody, 4 o'clock for you.
4:15. And will we be on Charter and YouTube, or is that a non-televised event? I think in transparency, yeah, we should do it.
Will you do that?
So 4:15 will be on video. I don't hear any cursing in the back room. Okay, we'll move on into item I, which is matters presented by the public. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments at this time? Seeing none, we'll move into item J, which is matters presented by the City Commission. Any commissioner have any items? Easy. Item K, Commissioner Bauer.
Your Honor, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All in favor of